Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Sisto Says, powered by Design 2147, a New York City code consulting and zoning consulting company. I'm here today with Carlo Scissura of the New York Building Congress, president. Carlo.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Always a pleasure.
Listen, this is a big honor for me to have you on the show.
I'm the one who's honored.
Oh, thank you. Carlo, I love following you. Keep up the incredible work that you do at the Building Congress. I am a member. I urge everyone to be a member. You do a great job, your entire staff, your entire organization, about keeping New York City moving. And one of the reasons why I asked you to come on the show is, I'm a huge proponent of, Eric Adams and the City of Yes. And I wanted you to come in and tell us your vision and tell us a little bit about what's happening and how we can keep this city moving to the empire, as the mayor said the other day, of building.
Look, I'm going to start it by saying we're in a bit of a strange time, right? Not just in New York, but in the world. The post-COVID redefining how we live, work, how we travel, how we play, how we move has changed. So 100%. People are not in offices 5 days a week anymore. They're maybe in 3 or 4 days a week. They're spending a little more time at home. So communities that used to be bedroom communities are now a little busier during the day. So movement is different, commuting is different.
Right. The world is different.
The world is different. But I would say this, never bet against New York.
Right.
New York is the global capital of the world. The finance, the fashion, the art, the food, the music, the construction, the development, the education, the healthcare, the culture, the tourism. It's all in New York.
On.
It goes on and on and on. What's that old song, right? Goes on and on and on. So I would not bet against New York. But what I would say is maybe right now we need to tinker. So I think the mayor is phenomenal. He gets it. He is pro-development, pro-growth, pro-building the 5 boroughs. That's what we do. We want to see housing built, affordable, market, workforce housing for cops, firefighters, teachers, nurses who can't afford to live in New York.
Right.
So that has to be done. We want to see investments in education, in schools, investments in NYCHA, investments in hospitals, and then, of course, transit. So if we don't really focus on investing in transit, our subways, our rails, our airports, our waterways, our bus systems, all of that is critical to the future of our city.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up. We did a newsletter about the, Design does a newsletter every Tuesday, and one of them was about the new train connection from Bay Ridge to Queens.
Yes, the IBX.
The IBX.
Interborough Express, baby.
Right, and you say to yourself, but it's just a train station. But along every train station gets major development. It's really what makes New York City great.
So think about this on the IBX. I live in Bay Ridge.
Yep.
So if I want to go to Queens, think about it. By train, I have to go to Manhattan to get to Queens. Mm-hmm. If you take the Interborough Express, you will snake through Brooklyn, mm-hmm. right, into Queens. You will connect to 16 New York City subway stops that can take you anywhere.
Right.
This is like a life-changing, life-altering thing. And you are using an existing right-of-way, an existing train line.
Right.
They're going to do...
Now, what was it? That was part of the... which rail was that had that...
So it's part of the freight rail.
It was part of the freight,
and the freight rail has 1 train a day at most. So you will be able to coexist a new light rail system plus freight plus green plus incredible development along 16 stops. Revolutionary.
So there is a perfect example how one change that takes a long time that makes a huge difference.
Correct.
I'm always intrigued by what's happened. One of the gentlemen that who was a mentor to me was Sheldon Lobel.
Yeah.
And I would always
great guy.
And the thing that made Sheldon great is that whether you wanted to hear it or not, he would tell you about something he did and how he changed the mindset of someone in New York to change the skyline of New York City. From 1961 until he passed away last year, he knew everything about you. He knew about the person who fed him the food. He knew about the guy in the diner that he talked to that, hey, if we put up a school over here, do you think it's a good idea? And he would literally ask people that he didn't know what he thought about a zoning change. And I've always been amazed by that. So, I know that one of the things that happens is that people will call the office and they'll say, hey, we heard there's going to be a zoning change. And I say, yeah, do you know how that works and how long it takes and what it means and who has...
And what a process.
And what a process is. So one of the things that I've really been grateful for is to have people like yourself, have people from in our industry to come in and explain to our audience that a zoning change in the garment district, just because the mayor likes it, this is not a dictatorship.
Correct.
It goes through a process. It goes through all of these public hearings. It goes through the community board. It goes through city planning.
ULURP, Uniform Land Use Review Procedure, right?
And it takes time. So yes, the garment district probably, and it with almost a lot of positive vibes, will be converted. But it takes years. It's just not going to happen.
Correct.
But part of that is, okay, so now we got office of residential conversion. Where do the families send their kids to school? Where is the local deli? Where, we grew up in neighborhoods. I grew up in Astoria. You grew up in Bay Ridge. Our parents would send us to the local bakery.
Up the block.
Just walked up the block and you'd say, oh, go see, Angelo. He has 2 loaves of bread for us. You didn't even bring money. He your mom paid him when she stopped there, right? So those neighborhoods need to be brought back, and they're here. But when we create these zoning changes, it's not just about putting some more housing. It's really about creating a new neighborhood.
Correct.
And one of the other projects that I really take a lot of time and have been doing is the life sciences that Mayor Adams wants to make in the Kips Bay area. That is he wants it to be the center of the world for life sciences. Just think of that magnitude. So tell us a little bit about that process, Carlo, being, in the borough president's office, being in the, the Brooklyn Chamber, now being at there's a lot that goes in.
So look, rezonings have been happening in New York for our entire history.
Correct.
Today, the city council, they either just voted or they're voting in a little bit to rezone and approve the Willets Point rezoning.
Correct.
So if you're at, I was going to say Shea Stadium, but if you're at City Field.
Right, that's the whole casino, housing,
Well,
school.
they're not voting on the casino. They are voting to approve the 2,200 units of housing, which was already done, and now to approve the soccer stadium, the retail, the hotels.
Right.
So when you're at City Field, you will no longer look out and see these derelict, nothing, abandoned streets, a couple of car shops.
Right. I mean, it's been
great thing. Okay. The mayor is proposing, and the city council representative from the garment district, Eric Botcher, has already said he's in favor. The garment district. What does that mean? 50 years ago, the garment district was where they made everything we're wearing.
And it was
amazing.
It was amazing.
It was the hottest.
It was just as a kid, I remember going there and watching people just hustling and bustling. I was like, this is amazing.
That doesn't exist anymore.
No, it's gone.
Today, I think, and forgive my numbers, but I think I'm right.
Very small.
3 to 5% of the garment district is garment manufacturing. Think about that. It also has some of the best transit in New York City. Every train, the N, the R, the D,
there was a reason for that.
There was a reason for that, right? The 1, the 2, everything. So we're looking at a part of Midtown Manhattan near Penn Station with subway access, with everything, with bones, great buildings.
Oh, great buildings.
That are not being utilized.
Right.
So now the mayor and city planning have identified 3 parts of this area where you can do office to residential. It will be exciting. We have history. We did, after 9/11, look at Lower Manhattan.
Right.
Couple of thousand people lived there before. It's over 100,000 people
it's
now.
booming.
Now you walk around, Whole Foods, schools, shopping.
It evolved.
By the way, offices, hotels, residential. There is everything. And by the way, that's what a city should be. every neighborhood should be mixed use. Every neighborhood should have the way we grew up, stores and people working and businesses
Right, and not just big
homes.
box stores. They should be little mom and pop shops. That was the American dream.
That was the American dream. So this is a moment where we're going to see the next 5, 10, 15 years, another renaissance of New York. So a Midtown Manhattan that doesn't close at 6 o'clock when
Right.
people leave, right? A place where you wake up in the morning, maybe you work from home in your new building in Midtown, but you use the coffee shop, the restaurants, the parks, the schools. You travel around in a subway system that exists. There is just so much happening.
100%. And part of that is, I wanted to ask you a question that, I'm a big proponent of the office to residential.
Yeah, as am I.
And it's funny how there's an opinion on it that, it's never going to happen. It's too expensive. And we're doing one right now. We're going to start another one, I hope, very soon. And we're looking at a couple more that we've put proposals in. And when you're out there and you're speaking, a lot of times it becomes just this generality, right? And we hear that a lot. You hear it a lot. I hear it
All
a
the
lot,
time.
right? But yet there's magnificent buildings that are on the corner, on a main avenue, that front 2 streets and an avenue, that have an amazing facade. It's been around since the mid-20s, and it's old, but it's beautiful, and they have nobody in it.
And that should be a residential conversion.
And there's so many of them, Carlo, that can be done.
And they're not just in Manhattan, by the way.
Right.
They're in Brooklyn and Queens and the
Well,
Bronx.
Here's a perfect example. This is a use group 16
Yeah.
building that now is a use group 6. We have a C of
Yes,
O,
of
so
course
you can
you
feel
do.
safe. In the middle of a residential block
Right.
in Greenpoint. There's no reason that when we retire, that if we wanted to bring this back to
It should be residential.
it should be residential,
Agreed.
And what made this neighborhood great for us is that we always felt that there were always people around us. We could go to the corner and go get a pierogi, and we could go down the street and get a slice of pizza. And the neighborhood still has that old school way, but with new buildings all around us, with 6-story buildings and hotels not far. So, it can be done, but it takes time.
It takes time.
It takes time. SCA, they're projecting that they need 30 to 40,000 seats. Is that what you're hearing as
Yeah,
well?
look, I think the and Lorraine Grillo, who's not there anymore, was probably one of the greatest in terms of building schools and understanding the needs. And I think really from Bloomberg to de Blasio to Eric Adams, the one constant is they've invested in school construction.
No doubt.
So it's not just building new schools.
No, it's renovating.
But it's a lot of renovations. And as the population shifts and people shift around New York, if you do a Midtown rezoning, if you create the IBX and now you're doing development. By the way, in the Bronx will now have 4 Metro North stops from Westchester
Yep.
that no longer just pass through the Bronx.
Right, they stop.
will stop now in 4
along
spots.
the Grand Concourse
That's right.
into the 125th Street.
These four stops on Metro North will have development and apartments and stores. So as you're building all of this, you're going to need schools.
Right.
And
you're going to need retail.
And you're going to need retail. So I think we may have a bit of a lull in capital, but the next 5 years after this, you're going to see a big need for school construction.
Oh, without a doubt.
Very big need.
So as we always go through this and we talk and we talk about this evolution, what would you say the biggest priority for New York City? Is it infrastructure?
Look, I think it's a couple of things. One is infrastructure. We got to rebuild our subways. We have to expand our subways. We have to fix the streets. We got to do something with the BQE. It took me today a very long time to drive like 8 miles. Right.
We have people. We have one.
It's
We
a
have
problem.
one. We have one woman who works here, and she's a doll. Her name is Janet, and she lives in Bay Ridge.
Oh my God.
And
the poor girl.
She's 70 years old.
The poor lady.
And she finally said, do you think I could work 1 day a week from
Give her,
home?
let her work
We're
remote.
like, no, you can
Yes.
work remote 2
Look,
days a
look,
week.
the BQE is a lifeline
It is.
for commerce and for people and for everything. So, and I think this mayor gets it, and they're going to do something. So, roads, bridges, tunnels, a lot of work in infrastructure, airports under construction.
JFK.
JFK is fully under construction.
Amazing.
LaGuardia, if you have flown into it
Amazing.
lately, it
Beautiful.
is now the #1 airport in the world.
Beautiful.
Newark, incredible.
Oh, Newark too. Yes.
A new Penn Station on the building block, a new Second Avenue subway, the IBX,
Metro North.
Metro North, a new Port Authority bus terminal, $10 billion. It will be the largest bus terminal in North America.
Wow.
So infrastructure through the roof, but housing right after that.
Right.
So we got to build housing.
Yeah.
We really need to keep people in New York.
Yeah,
we need to keep young people in New York.
And being in the business for 38 years this year, I've seen it. So many things have happened. We were here during the 90s,
Right.
and then we saw the boom. And it is amazing how much I've learned personally, how great cities find a way to partner with private development.
Absolutely.
And if that is not there, everything comes to a halt.
LaGuardia is a public-private partnership.
Right.
Kennedy is a public-private partnership. The future of economic development is no longer government is going to throw money in and everyone's going to smile. No. Government, the private sector, corporate, Wall Street, investors, we're all going to come together.
They have to.
And builders and contractors and engineers and say, how can we do this?
Right.
And that's the future of Penn Station, and that will be the future of many projects.
So we touched on it a little bit
Yeah.
ago, and I wanted to talk about it for a second. Is casinos? There's rumors. There's press out there about casino coming to Manhattan. Maybe one on the east side of Manhattan. Maybe one in Willits Point. Zoning's looking at it, and obviously there's state laws, there's city laws, there's zoning, there's licensing. Anything?
So in 2025, probably about a year from now, the state will award 3 new casino licenses
In New York City.
for downstate.
For downstate.
So it could be the 5 boroughs.
Could be anywhere.
It could be Long Island. It could be Westchester, but it will be down there.
Okay.
The 3 casinos will be incredibly large, full-fledged, full-service casinos with gaming tables, restaurants, shopping,
Hotel.
hotels, open space,
The whole deal.
the whole thing. We will have 3. I don't have a crystal ball. If I did, I would have won the $1 billion Mega Millions or Powerball, but I didn't. But we will have 3 casinos. Look,
And
there's
so when they do that, right, Carlo, just to, for the audience,
Yeah.
right, and even for myself, is so they choose it. How does the city and ULIP find that site? Is it based on a specific site and they go
there are
do a board case?
bunch. Yeah, there are a bunch of operators who have. So there's a casino that partnered with a private, that partnered with a construction, engineering, design, architect.
Whatever, and they put it all together.
They put it all together. So you have teams. So there's Willits Points has a team. There's one in Long Island. The one at what
and
used to be.
They all apply.
And everybody applies. So where Aqueduct was,
Right.
now there's a casino there right now.
Yeah, where Resorts.
Where Resorts World is. Hudson Yards has a bid. The east side of Manhattan, where the UN is, has a bid. SL Green has a bid in Times Square. I mean, I'm missing a few.
Yeah, but
they're all out
so
there.
they're all out there trying
They
to.
will all apply. The state will then say, we are going to give licenses at 3
to three entities.
those 3
groups.
entities still have to go through ULIRP, but some are going to go through ULIRP before. It depends. So
Depends.
Willits Point is working hard. Resorts is working hard.
Yeah.
SL Green, Related in Hudson Yards. These are all folks
players
that are working hard.
So again,
But the state will give three.
three. Okay, so that's a big
And
it's a big
so
deal.
within 3 to 5 years, the New York City area, 5 boroughs, Long Island, Westchester, in that area, there will be three, probably, I bet, the three most profitable casinos in the world.
Wow.
Once all is said and done, because it's New York.
Right. So here we go. We're back to the
We're
empire.
back to the back to the
empire.
literally, no pun intended, don't bet against New York.
I get
Because
it.
I say this, listen, you and I are still young, right? So 10 years from now, you're going to fly into a new JFK. You're going to be able to get from JFK to Midtown in a new air train. You will have casinos around you, a new Penn Station, a new Port Authority bus terminal, a new 2nd Avenue subway, a new IBX, new parks, new schools, hopefully 100, 200,000 new units of housing. It is a city and a region, because we're no longer just a city.
Right.
It's a region. It's Long Island. It's the 5 boroughs. It's Connecticut. It's parts of Jersey. We're one big region. And the largest infrastructure project in America is the Gateway Tunnels.
Right.
Which is building 2 new tunnels to bring high-speed rail so that eventually you will get from Manhattan to D.C. in less than 2 hours. It is a moment of growth for this city.
Yeah. So in your opinion, it always comes back to the infrastructure.
It always
starts there.
It starts there because everything is built around that.
Yeah,
Everything.
and like I said, I've been following the Metro North stuff.
Yeah.
I've been filing IBX there, and one of the engineers from Stantec came in, and we talked about the rail system and how his job is to help work with developers to get their FAR bonus by rebuilding one of the train stations. And it just so happened that we had done a project together in Long Island City, and I didn't know that the developer took the advantage of it. And he said the shame is that more developers should be taking that advantage.
Correct.
Help the city get a new entrance, help them get access to a platform in a different place, because that spurs growth not only for their building, but for the commuters.
Correct.
And so, there's so many great things that I always say that these administrations through the years, everyone wants to bash certain things in the newspapers, but they do such great things. To think of these ideas, to say, hey, partner up with us and we'll get...
Look, New Yorkers complain.
Yeah,
That's who we are. We are a bunch of crybabies, all of us. From the press to all of us. That's all we do is complain. At the end of the day, we're still building a great city.
Oh, without a doubt.
We still have great sports franchises.
We got everything.
We're going to have a new soccer stadium in Queens.
Huge.
Think about that. Queens will be a hub.
Baseball, tennis.
Everything. So I'm going to predict this. I said it here first, so you could get credit. The Queens Hub, tennis stadium, baseball, soccer, maybe a casino, all of this. We will have an Olympics within the next 20 years.
Wow.
New York City will have a Summer Olympics
Wow.
within the next 20 years.
So now I don't even have to ask the question, but I'm going to ask it to you anyway. So whenever we wrap up the show, Carlo, a good friend of mine, Andrew Peters from Curry and Brown, he was one of my first guests, and I met him a few years ago, and he does cost estimating, and he has got a very tough job. Someone comes to him and says, okay, I want to build a casino, I want to build a hotel in Manhattan, but I'm not going to be ready for 2 years. What's it going to cost me? And he says, it's going to cost you about this. They don't have the money. They didn't raise the money. But his job is, before they go to a bank and they go to private developers, they have a vision, and his job is to say, it's going to cost you X amount per square foot. So he always says, everybody wants to look in the rearview mirror, but my job is to look forward.
Smart guy.
Yeah. And your job is to give all of us and your hard work to give us optimism to look forward.
Right.
So you're giving us a little tidbit about, hopefully, God willing, knock wood, that we get an Olympic here, because I think
would love it.
For me, for my kids, for my grandkids,
And
I
look,
think
when we and I'm starting to talk about this Olympics thing, because when we went for it in 2012, it was a different world.
Mm-hmm.
It was a moment in the United States. It was post the Iraq War. There was a lot going on. We weren't ready. We didn't have the facilities. And New York wasn't at that moment ready to do it. But if you start today and you say, it's not happening in 4 years or 8 years.
Right.
Maybe it'll happen in 20 years or 24
And
years.
you look at
And
some of the places that try to do it just before, it's a disaster.
It's a disaster. So what we're doing now is we're planning for something.
Right.
We're planning for New York's future. And part of New York's future should be hosting a world-class Olympics. And I would like to see it happen.
Oh, I think that's amazing. So Olympics is one, two is infrastructure. And you know, I was at JFK the other day. I'm amazed at how quickly it's going.
It's going to be the largest, most world-class airport facility in the world.
So projecting forward, we continue to talk about the rail. We talk about that. What other piece, not short term, but long term, would you say a vision for New York City, regardless of the administration? Because we could change.
People change, right?
Different.
So look, I think the BQE's got to get fixed. That whole, and when I mean fixed, it's got to be redeveloped and rebuilt, and something new has to be there. I think a new outer bridge crossing from Staten Island to New Jersey. The Goethals Bridge was incredible. They have one more bridge that needs to be torn down and rebuilt.
Yep.
I think we got to continue to invest in neighborhoods outside of Midtown. So in Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, the Bronx.
The Bronx has done an incredible job.
The Bronx is, you know, when they said, what was the famous Howard Cosell?
The Bronx is burning.
The Bronx is burning. Now the Bronx is on fire.
On fire.
And it is moving. 4 new Metro Norths, the Kingsbridge Armory, economic development, new housing all along that waterfront.
So many great.
The Yankee Stadium area. It is really an incredible place. So Bronx is on fire. Queens has so much. Brooklyn, you know, I'm a Brooklyn guy. I think Brooklyn hasn't even seen its potential yet. You look at all the development, Industry City, Navy Yard, downtown Brooklyn. Coney Island will move forward.
Yeah.
Staten Island, the whole North Shore will be redeveloped. And Manhattan is...
We did a lot of buildings on the St. George side.
St. George is incredible.
They've done a great job.
And Manhattan is still the center of the world.
It is.
And it's going to do great. There will be, you know, continued growth, new population, new stores, new restaurants. But it's happening, and you still have to finish Hudson Yards. You still have pieces of the East Side.
Oh, there's still
the
a lot more to do.
area is booming, and we'll see what happens.
Well, it was such a pleasure to have you. It was an honor to have you.
Happy to be here.
Carlo, thank you.
Thank you, sir.